ideas that comes from conversing with the diverse youth council as well as youth fellows. Typically living in Japan, I try to think out of the box. Those ideas come out naturally talking to my teammates. It's always very insightful what they have to say, and working on projects like the Youth Council Instagram account or the teaser for the Learning Planet Festival, everything has been very exciting and really a meaningful experience for me. The thorn would be the different time zones, how it's very difficult for us to actually establish meetings outside the monthly youth council meetings that Ed hosts for us. After those youth council meetings, where almost everybody kind of joins in, everything is really energetic, everybody's motivated. But after a few weeks, about 2 weeks in, after the youth council meeting, everybody tends to get a little lazy, experience a lack of motivation. So this way and because of the different time zones, we can't schedule a meeting to really catch up with each other or check in. So we have really had difficulty experiencing real growth, I guess. I feel like we could have gotten more done if we could have met more frequently. Because as I said, the rose is the conversation, but with the different time zones, it's really difficult to have those regular conversations with my teammates. And the bud is obviously being able to work for being able to, I guess, work so that we could contribute to the next term of youth council and youth fellow members. As a communications team member, we're working on, for example, the logo of the youth fellow community, which we don't have yet, and the ways we could run the youth fellow campaign, how we can reanalyze and reconstruct the overall structure of the youth fellows and the overall Youth Empowerment Circle. Ed has also come up with a good way for us to, I guess, interact or share our ideas in a way through surveys, because we can't really meet up. We could do surveys and then we could let all our thoughts out on paper, or we could look at those during the monthly youth council meetings. So that is the bud. I guess that's all I have to say for today. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Haruta, for sharing and for giving a little bit of a picture about, I suppose, what can be the excitement of working and always the potential as we work in these collaborations, but also the challenges that come in how we facilitate and measure up this excitement and the potential with some goals and some ways of collaborating together on the day to day. Maybe you could share just a little bit as a follow-up, and please everyone do add in any questions in the chat, anything that's coming up for you, or any ways to rebound on what Haruta's sharing. But I'd be curious, Haruta, for you, you're part of already a network, in your case with KidsforSDGs, and obviously coming up to university as well. Where do you see the role of a youth empowerment circle, wider community of youth fellows, within the networks that you're already part of?
Yeah, so I think I'm really working on, education right now. And obviously through my initiatives, I meet a lot of people that are not passionate about education, but for example, the environment or other goals for the SDGs. So I think this Youth Empowerment Circle, which really brings together a lot of young people that are interested in different areas, will be crucial, I guess. where it creates an online environment like a university or like an organization where a lot of people have different expertise but can come together to make the world a better place. So I think it's very crucial for young people right now and the future.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Haruta, and for giving us a picture of how it's kind of accompanying you on your journey as a game changer. I'm wondering, are there any reactions, any questions for Haruta about his journey through the initiative as of yet? If so, don't hesitate to raise your hand as well. We will also, as waiting for that, we will also be hearing from a couple more youth fellows in the course of the session too, and notably a couple of the youth fellows that have participated in the EcoSoc forum just now in this past week in New York. And this is something that we're really excited to explore further, that given this circle combines and connects this wonderful community of youth supporting organizations, that there are events and moments of action throughout the year, which we can be working more and more at connecting the threads, building on the momentum of Catalyst into coming up to summer events around transforming education, for instance, Transforming Education Summit, or looking up towards COP as well, and that there seems a real energy and a push to how we can continue building the threads and the connections of these events. On which note, I'm grateful that Ava is with us and able to share a little bit as a youth fellow about her experience at EcoSoc just in this past week, where you see the role of these kinds of networks and supporting and connecting to these on the ground actions. So firstly, if you could just briefly introduce yourself and actually what EcoSoc is, and then how as a network it's kind of you're representing or connecting through these major events.
Hello everyone. I have a cold since I'm back in New York, so I might sound a bit off. And I'm Ava. I'm an activist with Fridays for Future Climate Education, and my focus on activism is on climate education. And I represented on EcoSoc the Climate Education Coalition. In this coalition, which LPI is partner, we are trying to push for climate education in the next COP. You can search and sign our petition as well. So EcoSoc is the Economic and Social Council of the United Nations, and they organize annually a youth forum. I'm very disappointed by the organization, to be honest, because I wanted more interaction between the floor, the people in the room, and the speakers, and I missed that a lot. So yeah, I'm very disappointed, but I think that the power of networks and the people connecting there and sharing experience and motivate each other is very powerful. I think it's a very big step for youth participation inside the United Nations, but we should not be okay on having a separate table. We should, have a seat on the actual table of policymaking. So we have a long way to go. I hope next year will be better, the organization, because many other participants had the same thoughts as I had. But yeah, I always think that when you put young people in the same room, very beautiful things can happen just by the energy, That's from me. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Ava. We'll definitely carry that point. Beautiful things can happen if we can create the spaces in the rooms. And just on that point, as a follow-up question from me, where do you see the potential, the ways in which a circle such as this, a youth of coalition of youth supporting organizations, how can it feed the efforts to really make the spaces, the global events, your work and your activism more and more effective and meaningful? So how can it feed into that?
I think by the simple thing of talking. because we often have complaints, but we are keeping them in ourselves, and we are going these organizations, and we are taking the good pictures, but then we go home and bring back what. So I think if we are making the effort to submit the feedback on these organizations, and we are making the effort to for groundwork with the local policymakers and action with the local communities, momentum that way.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. And we'll be also gathering on the site, and I'm going to share the link towards the Youth Empowerment Circle project page, but some of the experiences of our youth members at EcoSoc over the past week, the good, the bad, what they want to see grow, and how we can use these major events and moments in order to really push towards much stronger and concerted and collaborative action as well. So I'm going to just put the link into the chat. When you have a chance, you can explore this project page as we're developing it. And I'm going to also, in the meantime, let in a couple of others. And as we're just letting in a couple into the journey of this conversation, a question from Zorika that I could open as well to not just Ava, but also to Haruta. Which actors are important on your journey, and what's the kind of support? What is the kind of support is crucial for you to be able to achieve your potential and your goals? Haruta, would you like to start first?
Which actors are important on your journey, and what kind of support is crucial for you to view? Well, I have to have a minute to think, but maybe Ava can go first while I think. Sorry.
Ava, what's your thought?
Actors. Okay, I think all my fellows and other young people that are supporting all these projects, because of course I cannot do anything alone as a person, as an individual, and all these activists that started a journey on changing things have a large support network. And I think that in some cases, support of on technical issues will be crucial. For example, in all these processes, I often consult academics or professors or people with more experience in this field, and it is very, very helpful. And the last thing, but not least, is the financial thing, because young people do not have the means most of the times to fund themselves in these conferences. So these three actors I would point.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah, resourcing is really, really crucial, and I understand resources as financial, but it's also that social, intellectual as well. It's guide on the journey. Haruta, does that resonate with you? Something else?
Yeah. I think throughout my few years, I think the most crucial would be mentorship. You know, the youth fellow and the youth empowerment circle is great, in which we can exchange fresh ideas and brainstorm. But to really expand and grow our initiatives, I think mentors are really, really important. And I think the education team of the Youth Council is trying to create a mentor program. I think that is really, really good, because I think to really bring our initiatives to the next level, we need experience and knowledge. And for me, that was very, very important, mentors.
Yeah, and thank you for mentioning that, Haruta. Yeah, so this has been something that has come up a lot in council discussions, but we'll maybe come back to it just after we pass to Treaser to share her experience in the youth council of this year, and we'll be able to give a feedback on what some of the groups have been thinking about. Just for a quick bit of context, the youth council was started as the initiative began because one of the core outcomes of the first few sessions of the Youth Empowerment Circle was, okay, we need to give spaces for young people to be able to meaningfully participate in decisions affecting their future. And we can't just shout this from the rooftops without actually showing how this happens in our own house. And so the Youth Council was started in October 2021, so soon after the beginning of the circle, and just brought together 18 members of the community to be able to help give some guidance on how we can develop and support this community. And as in the past year, we've had a real growth of our youth fellows community particularly. It's really developed as a way of seeing how can we best support and connect this community through learning resources. As Haruta mentioned, there's been a big focus on how we can bring in mentoring into the experience, through as well communications. So what might be some ways in which as an initiative we can be most inclusive of the young members, but also best facilitate communication and collaboration between them. We also have had a group focusing on this notion of sustainability as planetisms. So how can we go beyond just looking at sustainability in each of our countries, but really look at our responsibilities as global citizens. And so that's been quite an explorative conversation. And then finally, and it's a chance to bring in Teresa, we've had a group looking at rights and inclusion within the initiatives. So how can we ensure that as an initiative, we are being as inclusive and recognizing as much as possible the rights of each of the participants, members of this initiative as well. So with that being said, Teresa, I'll give you a chance to introduce yourself and share a little bit more about your experience in the council so far this year, and what you're looking hopefully to see and grow in the coming months.
Okay, thank you so much, Edward. Greetings, everyone. As just stated by Edward, my name is Treaser, and I am part of the Youth Council as a representative from Zambia. So today, I'll talk about my experience in the Youth Council. So I have been in the Youth Council for about 6 months now, and our goal really has been to serve the wider community that includes everyone, the youth fellows that have recently joined the fellowship. And I am also particularly in the Rights and Inclusion Working Group, which has a role to, bring rights and inclusion at the heart of the global Learning Planet youth community. So my experiences, my positives from being part of the Rights and Inclusion Group are quite a lot, but I will highlight a few. I'll start with the fact that I've been able to grow and collaborate with individuals that are like-minded and have the zeal and willingness to ensure that we are pushing the rights and inclusion in different sectors that affect our lives. And so as part of the Rights and Inclusion Group, we had an opportunity to actually even celebrate the Youth Rights Day, which was on the 20th of November. Yes, where we took part. And in that meeting, I had an opportunity to actually even put together a charter for the youth rights, how the youth rights have been 100 years ago and now. And then also we have been able to attend some events at the festival that we recently had, and we learned quite a lot. For instance, I learned from the Building Inclusion in Climate Education event, and also an event which was focusing on how to achieve accessible and inclusive education. So all these are centered around, rights and inclusion. So it's been quite a very, very amazing experience learning from, people from across the world. And apart from that, the other lessons include, understanding more the human rights and their significance. But also I have been able to learn, to create inclusive environments that welcome and value all individuals from different backgrounds. And I have also been able to develop my leadership skills because in these working groups, we were able to give each other roles. Be up in our regular meetings that we have, we're able to give each other roles. So I've been able to also just grow in my leadership skills. And like I mentioned, meeting like-minded people. So my network has also just grown across the world. And my recommendations, or what I would want to see grow this year, would be stronger partnerships or collaborations with local organizations working towards similar goals, especially in terms of rights and inclusion. So these could be in our various communities and across the world. And also, I would love to see development of new initiatives and projects. For instance, in our working group, we quite discussed something related to that, where we have one of us working on rights with refugees, and then we had someone else working with young girls and in terms of health and menstrual hygiene. So we were looking at how we can incorporate those ideas and just ensure that the rights and inclusion aspect of it is coming out. So I would like to see more initiatives and projects that are centered around achieving the same goal. And lastly, I would also want I would love to see the continued commitment, towards challenging each other to do better while we haven't been able to do better. For instance, the challenge that has been there in terms of different time zones, um, that has been quite a challenge because we're coming from different time zones. But I know though that is a challenge, we can still work around it and see how we can, just challenge each other and work towards it so that we have our regular meetings and just discuss the way forward to achieve our goals. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Treaser, for sharing and giving a full picture of the experience and what it's been like to be able to connect on a regular basis. And it does open up a question. We've mentioned it before around like the logistics and the practicalities of international collaboration. And so it's definitely not a trivial question. How do we create the spaces and the opportunities to practically connect and to be inclusive beyond just the 1 hour of the month that people can join? There's been lots of people today, for instance, that were so keen to join, haven't been able to because of different factors, and so we're trying to see how we can capture some of the insights from these regular sessions, how we can feed them into our project spaces, as I shared in the chat as well. But any ideas that you might have had from your experiences, please do share them as well, how you've got past, how you've really pushed forward international collaboration and got past some of the practical limits and challenges of it. It would be great to have some of your ideas and contributions there so that we can continue to be more and more inclusive as possible as well. If there are questions for Treaser in the chat, then feel free to ask them or raise your hand. In the meantime, I just think that Zorika, your question was so pertinent and wonderful. I'm gonna repeat it again for Treaser, if that's okay. And I'd love the more time we can get to hear this answer from as many of you as possible, the better towards the end. But for Treaser, for you, what actors are important on your journey, have been important, and what kind of support for you do you feel is crucial to achieve your potential as being so passionate about youth communities?
Oh, okay. So there are quite a number of actors that I think are important for us to achieve our goals. So I would say the fact actors are the youth fellows.
And so there will be certainly all of the ideas captured. And on which note, I think it will be great to give the floor back to Treaser. So Treaser, as you were midway through, but do start again. It might have given you time as well to get some more ideas. But for you, who supports you on your journey as a game changer, and what further support do you feel that you might need from this wider community as well? Please do share. If you could just unmute yourself first.
Like I was saying, of course, so we have the youth fellows. There are our like first actors in this because we need the initiatives and the ideas that are going to come from them, because actually they are the wider community that we are also saving. And then the other actors would include the representatives from marginalized communities. So these are communities that are basically even being affected or left out when it comes to rights and inclusion. For instance, the youth, like it was earlier stated that the youths, sometimes they're not given the platform to speak out on issues that concern them. So we need representatives from marginalized communities that are also our important actors in this. And then researchers and academics so that they can also assist, in analyzing with and providing the actual statistics and facts on what really is on the ground when it comes to rights and inclusion. And then we would also need or recommend government officials and policymakers, because they are the ones that are responsible also to help in shaping policies and programs that are centered around rights and inclusion. So they are also very important actors in these. And lastly, donors and funders, because we also need the financial resources to help us push forward the different initiatives and projects that are there in place. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much, Treaser, for continuing as you left off as well. That's fantastic, and it builds on these insights we're gathering in the session around what might be some further support. So we've heard quite a bit around support and guidance on the logistics of facilitating these environments, as well on the access to mentorship, and then lastly, I think as well the resource, not just intellectual and mentorship, but also financial as well, and what's the most effective way that we can get the money to the initiatives, to the youth-led initiatives that are really doing amazing work in communities too. Thanks so much, Treaser, for sharing. It would be great now just to pass to yourself, Bethany, because we've gone from the fellows and their experience at different events into the council, which is really powering the initiative. And it's supported by some incredible co-leading organizations and this wider community too, especially children policies. And it would be great to hear from you, your experience engaging the initiative over the past year, and particularly how it's led into bringing youth decision making and advice into the heart of CAP as well.
Thank you so much, Ed. It's such a privilege to be here and just really exciting. So as Ed said, I work for Children and All Policies, which is an organisation based at UCL in London, and we exist to meet the challenges that children face all over the world. So we work through networks, bring experts together through research and advocacy to really try to ensure that children's rights and interests are at the heart of all policies and decision making that is happening internationally. And so from the beginning, we've recognized that changes, work in this area should always involve children and young people. Children and adolescents have a right to be heard, and we learn so much from their experiences and from their ideas. And so we're excited to be involved in the Youth Empowerment Circle. its importance and its potential was really obvious to us. But I think really I wasn't prepared for just how amazing the youth who are involved really are. Just their passion and compassion and innovation. You know, their ideas are just so inspiring. And bringing these ideas into fruition with wisdom and care and determination, I think I've just been incredibly inspired by the young people who've been involved. And another thing I've been really struck by is the relationships and just how young people are supporting each other. Really important relationships are being formed through this Youth Empowerment Circle, and I'm excited to see how they continue and grow and shape the world that we live in a positive way. So it's really a caring community has been built here, and it's just such a privilege to be part of that. And also I think this space has so much to teach others and other organizations. And as Ed mentioned, we've formed a youth council advisory board to be part of our specific pieces of work. So we have academic experts and policymakers to come together to look at issues such as climate change and harmful commercial marketing, how data is communicated to policymakers. And 21 young people from 16 different countries have agreed to be part of our work and partner with us. And it's such a privilege to have those young people involved. We're quite early in the process. We had our first meeting last week. But really, the learning from this Youth Empowerment Circle has really gone into shaping and forming this group. And I think we all know the importance of having young people at the heart of decision making and partnering with them. But in reality, there's so many things you have to think of around safeguarding, keeping people safe, keeping making sure that there's safe spaces and everyone can access them. And so there's so much thought and work that goes into that, and we've really been supported and encouraged by the Youth Empowerment Circle. And so really the Youth Empowerment Circle is such a unique achievement. It provides a space for young people to take the lead and realize their potential. And I think it's wonderful to see just how initiatives grow and the changes they make. But I think it's also really important to encourage other organizations and networks to bring young people into the very heart of decision making. And I think that's something that the Youth Empowerment Circle can continue to do. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Bethany, and we'll be really curious as well to see and how the journey evolves of the Youth Council, with CAP specifically too. We've spoken as well with Manoj, who's from the Catalyst community, about how there'll be a central place for youth as well in the Catalyst community over the coming months. And so this is what's really exciting, is seeing how there is the cross-network approach, and then in each community gathering these insights and knowledge and know-how, sharing this expertise, and how youth members can have a dedicated place in each of the communities as well. And so we're really keen to see how we can pass on some ideas for that, some humble learnings too, what has worked, what we'd love to improve. And so we definitely want to commit to doing that more, and it feeds into this theme, I think, coming up today around as well the value and the importance of mentorship. And on that note, I am just putting in the link to the form that we've been gathering over the past months. Those interested, both of the young youth members and of the youth organizations, in offering, for now we've explored offering just a minimum of 1 hour a month based on an area of your expertise. It might be 1 hour spent in that month exploring, looking at a funding proposal, if that's what you can offer. It might be 1 hour of just an open informal meeting, Q&A. It could be split in lots of different ways, but it's just as a way of saying there are these competencies, these insights in this Youth Empowerment Circle community, and how can we make it as fluid as possible so that those that need help can also find those that are able to offer insights too, and that this works very much in a two-way format. That it will also be equally as relevant for the adult and youth member leading organisations seeking support as well from our members too is especially important. So we'll do have a look at that form, fill it in if you're of interest to hear a little bit more, and we're going to be trying to put that into place over the next couple of months. And with that being said, we'd like to pass to one of our most wonderful mentors in the initiative, yourself, Kenneth. Share a little bit more around, when you joined, we were discussing this question over what do you need, what have you been able to call on in terms of support, and what would you like to look more for over the coming months? And this has opened up some wonderful conversation, but maybe you could share a little bit more about what this circle has been for you, and a little bit about where you were last week. We mentioned EcoSoc earlier, but it'd be great to get your perspective.
Yeah. Look, I'll make this short. Thank you so much. Right. And look, I don't call myself a mentor, to be honest. I call myself as someone who wishes I can live like a youth again. And one of the things that we do, I think, as a team with Bethany is honestly putting youth first. So as part of the Learning Planet Youth Fellows program, well, here's 6 of our youth fellows, right, at the recent ECOSOC Youth Forum at the UN, right? So what I do, I guess, in terms of my team at KidsforSDGs as well as all our partners, is to align with, real world organizations to give even high school students the chance to engage in the real world like this, where they meet country delegates, where they present posters, right? Everybody loves to present their posters at the UN. It's like kind of a ritual thing. And as you can tell, these posters, right, Francois basically said, let's go, the Planetism Fellows. So I guess these are our first 6 Planetism Fellows of the Youth Fellows community, given they're at the UN. So as I said, like going forward, I really hope that, this is year 2. I really hope that we can continue to engage the Youth Council and the Youth Fellows in global opportunities like this. And last but not least, just to drop in a potential, teaser, we are recruiting students and youth potentially joining the SDG Summit in New York during United Nations General Assembly Week, which will be huge. So again, Ed, I'll be discussing with you in Paris in 2 days in person. And but look, as I said, thank you so much for being a part of this Youth Fellows community. I cannot wait to see this. I want all of us to look back in 10 years and be like, didn't we do something good in this world? So yeah, thanks everyone.
Thank you so much, Kenneth. It's so wonderful to see these photos, to see what has emerged, and to also hopefully build momentum as well as we're moving towards these events. And I think, though, to build on what Eva, you were mentioning earlier around the challenge, we need to put more pressure on these events, bringing out kind of meaningful outputs too. And so by participating more and more regularly as well, it can be a way of us of really encouraging what it can be, the change that we want to see in these kind of environments. How can we make these moments as truly meaningful as possible? And so thanks for giving that picture. And that gives, I mean, this past 50 minutes has been able to give a few of the different portraits of people in the initiative. And thank you as well so much for your questions. Just to give a little bit of an idea as well of what's coming up. So you'll have seen in the chat, we've shared a link around the possibility to support and get involved in mentorship as well. We also have been starting, particularly with the education group of the council, to share more resources and encourage the wider community to share more resources for the youth fellows particularly as well, and many others too. And so I'm just going to be posting in the link to this once I find it in a second. But if there are resources or opportunities that you want to post, then we make this available particularly for our youth communities to be able to just as best as possible filter through, search what is most meaningful to them in their work as well. And so these might be events coming up to give us some planning time to think how we can support these. It could be funding opportunities, other projects, other trainings. So please do want to add that in, have a look at that and bookmark it so that you can then save and contribute to that afterwards. Another point as well, just very briefly, is that we've reflected a lot with Learning Planet about how we can accompany our youth members on their journey as game changers too. We've had a lot of feedback. There's been amazing trainings that have been offered and workshops by the wider community. But one area that youth fellows have been always asking for and exploring and being interested in is in amongst all of this opportunity, all of these challenges. My cause, my passion, my focus might be clear, but just some support as how to guide and how to find a pathway through all this opportunity and challenge. And so on which note, we're going to be launching the first test of a program in June for the moment for our existing youth fellows on calling a purpose development program. So exploring and building on several years of research and offers and resources from within the Learning Planet Institute on how can you guide particularly students through identifying their core cause, but also seeing how we can reflect and plug this into community actions as well. So we'll be updating and sharing a little bit more with the community as this develops. But I'd love on this note just to briefly introduce Ilya, who'll be the lead facilitator for this program. So if you could just briefly introduce yourself, Ilya, and what you're looking forward to seeing coming up in that program over the coming months.
Thank you, Ed. I'll be very short, taking account the time we have left. I'm happy to meet everyone. I'm just a new clients and the whole community. You've lost and you can be able to find.
So I think Ilya's connection is bugging somewhat, but
connection has disappeared because can you hear me? Because I cannot turn on the video because organizer stopped this.
It's buffering quite a lot, Ilya. So maybe best is just to introduce or share a short intro in the chat, because each time you're speaking, it's buffering quite a bit. And we'll share it in the summary email too, a little bit more information about this test program. And certainly we'll be having plenty of more opportunities over the coming months to share a bit more about the progress of this. But that also probably helps us to finish on time as well. So I would say certainly thank you so much to those that have continued through the journey of this session. I'm being bounced here and everywhere by Zoom as well. Thanks so much to Rashid for your support on this too from the Catalyst team and the opportunity to share more during this week. There's hundreds of amazing events over the course of this week to explore further, notably around how Catalysts are bringing youth in at the heart of the network too. And so we're really excited to explore more on that. Some quick takeaways. Do save the mentoring form. I'll also be sharing in a summary email the access to sharing and submitting resources. And in fact, I'm just going to get this up now so that I can pass this into the chat. Here we go. We will also be giving you some information and sharing the progress of our programs supporting the Youth Fellows members, particularly through the personal development programs, but we're really open to exploring some other members of the community, if there's anything that you feel you can offer that you can share with particularly the youth fellows, then please do get in touch. I'll be putting my email as well into the chat. And indeed, thank you, Dominia. I'm really glad to be joining in a couple of hours for the session looking at further youth involvement in the wider Catalyst network too. So lots to be looking forward to. Last but not least, we do have our campaign and our push for further youth fellows to join the community over this month. We doubled the community this time last year, and so we're certainly hoping to do the same. So I'm just going to share a little bit more information into the chat. So there's a few different links I'm asking you to bookmark, but would really recommend exploring more because there's some